Hola y buenos días, mis amigos. Hoy vamos a aprender un poquito sobre los verbos de cambio radical. Hi, and welcome back again, friends. Today, I want to talk to you guys about what we call stem changing verbs or radical changing verbs. A lot of times, after my students have gotten really good at conjugating, this is a tougher concept for them to pick up on. Traditionally, if you are taking Spanish 1 at a high school or middle school level, this is the point where you're going to start your review in chapter 2. In Spanish 2. So if you have made it this far and you feel good about what we've been practicing, you should be really proud of yourself. So this idea of a stem change or radical changing verb is something that we don't see very much in English, maybe some in the past tense, mostly because we don't conjugate very much. So the only way we can get really good at this is to remember the verbs that your teacher and myself are trying to teach you here, to practice them, and to keep on reading. And eventually you'll use these words so much that they do become natural to you. So without further ado, let me go ahead and show you guys a good way to start thinking about this. So a stem changing verb is what we call los verbos de cambio radical in English. And with the stem changing verb, we have a change in the conjugated stem. So up until this point, when we've conjugated our verbs, we've gotten good at remembering the pattern of o, as, a, amos, and an, or o, es, e, emos, or imos, and en. And now you have to still do good with that, but some of these verbs, when you recognize them, they're going to have a change in the stem as well. So we've got two main categories or two main ways that these stems will change. They're either going to have an E in the stem or the beginning of the word, and when we conjugate it, that E is going to look like IE, or they're going to have an O in the stem of the verb, and when we conjugate it, the stem is going to look like UE. Now there is one that I'll show you from the Growing Learning Spanish book that will have a U to UE stem changer, but that is very uncommon. And again, it is a verb that you're going to use a lot. So when you see these funky things as an English or a non-Spanish speaker who's trying to learn Spanish, it can be a little difficult to get the hang of without practice because it's not something we do very often. But if you are a child and you speak Spanish, these are the verbs that you're going to use all the time. So native Spanish speakers typically don't have trouble with learning how to conjugate these. All right, so before we begin, the last thing I want to show you is that we already have practiced this. We had an irregular verb. It was the verb tener. And the verb tener we said is irregular because the yo form doesn't follow the typical pattern. So while we say yo tengo, here we don't actually see the stem change that I'm trying to show you in this video. So let's not consider tengo in this example. Now, the ones that I will show you, we will have a stem change in the yo form, just not with tener because it's irregular. But as we continue on, we have tú tienes. Please notice how the E here in tener is now IE here. When we talk about él or ella, we say tiene. So I'll do el perro tiene, the dog has. Again, el e ya es un ie aquí en el raíz de la palabra. So now the next one we have is nosotros. In the nosotros form, this is where we get a better idea of what that infinitive looked like originally. So this is going to be helpful if you have a nosotros conjugated verb in your reading or on a test that you're doing. It will help you see what that stem was, what the original infinitive looked like of that verb. So here we have tenemos. Notice that there's no E to IE stem change here. And if you're practicing vosotros, it's tenéis. We don't stem change there either. But when we get back to ellos and ellas, or los perros, las escuelas, what we use is tienen, and we do see our E to IE stem changer. So while you learn this, you maybe didn't realize that you were doing a stem change, but if you practice this the way that you should, this should be your key to figuring out how to do that stem changing conjugation and to be able to use these stem changers in the right way. So let's go over to the book and take a look at some examples of how we use these. So here in this part, I just list a few verbs that will actually do a stem change. And I'm trying to show you that we have the ones that go from E to IE or O to UE. So a great example is the verb volar. It's not one that I use in my Spanish 1 class, but one that's very useful. And you can see that there's an O here in the stem. This O is going to become UE as we conjugate it, but we're going to be able to see a lot more about the infinitive here in the nosotros y vosotros form. So yo vuelo, not yo volo. Tú vuelas, él y ella vuela, nosotros volamos, vosotros voláis, y ellos y ellas vuelan. Here is the one jugar that I mentioned has a U in the stem but becomes a U to UE. Typically, when teachers are teaching this, it is a chapter about sports or playing and games, and this is a great verb to help you get used to that. So when we have jugar, when we go to the yo form, we would think it might say jugo. And if you've been in my class, last chapter we talked about food and drinks, and with tener we talk about what do apples have, and we know that word jugo means juice. So we don't want to say I juice. We want to say I play, yo juego. Tú juegas, él y ella juega, but nosotros y vosotros jugamos y jugáis. Entonces aquí podemos ver que no hay un cambio radical en la raíz cuando hablamos de nosotros y vosotros. Pero cuando vamos a ellos y ellas, when we go down here to this last one, we do need el cambio radical. Entonces en la raíz no tenemos una U solamente, tenemos UE. Y aquí con volar no solo tenemos la U, tenemos U y E. All right, guys, so now that we've seen this, let's take a look at some of these stem changers and see if you can tell what the stem is that will change and how you would conjugate them. So aquí son unos muy comunes que usamos. These are some that are very common that we use. We have the verb querer, to want. Last chapter, we used the verb desear, to desire, which is a more polite way of communicating what you may want. We have the word perder, to lose, and the verb dormir, to sleep. Now, we have a E to IE stem changer, an E to IE stem changer, and an O to UE stem changer. Now, after we've done this, we're going to go ahead and use the verbs that we're practicing to just translate a few, and I'll show you a funny joke that you may want to look up on YouTube that has helped some of my 6th graders and high schoolers remember what's going on here a little better. So, if you want to pause here and complete this, you can. We're going to go ahead and move forward. So, when we look at this, querer becomes yo quiero. That E here in the stem has become IE here, and we get quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, queréis. No hay un cambio radical aquí. Y después tenemos quieren. Ahora tenemos perder, pierdo, pierdes, pierde, perdemos, perdéis y pierden. Todos se están conjugando con un cambio radical aquí en la raíz, lo siento. Okay, dormir, to sleep. Yo duermo, tú duermes, él duerme, nosotros dormimos. We have an I here because this is an IR verb, and we don't have a stem changer because it's nosotros y vosotros. So we can see that the infinitive was dormir, not duermir. And then in our last one, we have ellos o ellas duermen. So when I was a kid, yeah, I was already pretty fluent in Spanish at this point, but there was this Taco Bell commercial about the 69-cent tacos that we all thought was pretty hilarious. And we have a new Godzilla movie coming out now, and there was one coming out then too. And so I like to show this to my kids. It's this little dog being mischievous and walking up to people living their normal life. And he'll see someone eating some food, and he'll look at them and say, yo quiero Taco Bell. It's pretty funny, and my students seem to like it. But by remembering yo quiero Taco Bell, hopefully you'll remember this word to want and know that querer goes to quiero and not just quiero. All right? So when we said I want to fly to Costa Rica, it's not vuelo a Costa Rica, I fly to Costa Rica, but quiero volar a Costa Rica. Here for they lose money because they play a lot, what we want to do is we want to conjugate perder for they. We get pierden dinero porque juegan mucho. So both of these stem changers are conjugated for they because they lose and they play. Y la última is when you talk, I don't want to sleep. So cuando hablas, no stem changer here, no quiero. We're choosing quiero and we're leaving dormir unconjugated. So we don't want no quiero duermo we want no quiero dormir. If you're having trouble with these two, you want to go ahead and check out my video about the beginners, future, and past, and I think I do a pretty good job explaining it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Adios.